This is the Utah High School Hoops Podcast, your source for sometimes informative, but always entertaining coverage of the Utah High School Hoops scene. With your host, Adam Peak. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Happy New Year. I'm recording this on New Year's Eve in the year 24. I was told that old people like myself keep saying 2024 and 2025, but that we can just say 24 and 25 because it's been a while. We don't have to keep the 20 there. So however you want to say it, rolling into 25 or 2025, whatever it is, I hope that you have a happy and safe holiday and get ready for next year. Next year is every time there's a new year, I think it's a great time to look at your goals, look at where you are, kind of reassess, look back on the year that you've had, and then look forward to the year that's coming, and really get people around you, either as a team, if you're a coach, or as an individual, if you're a player, if you're a parent and you're trying to help your player, whatever it is, or if you're a parent and it's, work or whatever it might be. But finding people who can come around you, who can hold you accountable to your goals. They should be your goals. So if you're going to set goals for next year, make them specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time sensitive, which are SMART goals. And so you can't say like, I want to get better at shooting. No, you should set a goal and say, I am a 28% 3-point shooter. And for the second half of the high school year, I want to be a 35% high school shooter, whatever it is, right? Like set realistic goals, but you should set goals. I think they're great, but just don't make them, kind of arbitrary and subjective. And then when you set them, share them with somebody who you trust to hold you accountable to them. So I love the new year. It's a time of hope. It's a time of remembering. And it's always falls right in the middle of basketball season, which is my favorite sports season, as you can probably tell, of all time. So what I'm going to do today is we're gonna go through very quickly the newly released power rankings that nobody asked for, brought to you by UtahBasketball.net, which is the Substack page that hosts this podcast. We're going to go through those pretty quickly. I feel like there's a bunch of players who had great performances this week or since I did the last podcast, but I don't know what they are. I've been trying to stay off of Instagram, honestly. I don't really, just to be totally candid, I don't like Instagram at all. I think it's a total waste of time. I'm only on there to help promote this whole thing, but I really don't like being on there. And so I try to stay off it as much as possible. I may just punt on it entirely and just say, if you want to hear my takes, you can go listen to the podcast and subscribe. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm getting so close to pulling the trigger and just deleting my whole page. I don't know why I was going on that rant there about, so I haven't been on Instagram very much. And so I don't really know, other than the games that I've been able to watch, which isn't that many. I've got a lot happening just both personally and professionally in my full-time job. And that's been taking up a lot of my time. Rightly so. This is a complete hobby for me. But if you want to help support my hobby, I actually have a new sponsor. You may have heard me play their ad. It is Relyte, Relyte. It's a company that's owned by Redmond Salt, and I can tell you that their products, I purchased their products. I went to the store, I bought their products. And it's not like what you would think when it comes to the taste, because it doesn't have any like artificial sugars or anything like that in it. It comes from a salt company, and so it helps a ton with rehydration, getting your body right. And so if you go to redmond.life and you buy some products, you can use my last name, Peek15, Peek15, and you can get 15% off of your purchase. And so as you're looking at setting these goals, personally, for a team, whatever it is, part of that is going to be just how well can you recover and stay hydrated with good nutrition. And part of that, not all of it, but part of that is going to be your recovery with Relyte, Relyte. You can go to redmond.life. Once again, use promo code PEEK15, PEEK15, and get that going. All right, so let's jump into this here. with the I feel like I should have some sort of music. What's this one? The Utah High School Hoops Power Rankings that nobody asked for. I don't know. How do we feel about that intro music? It's just a preset on my what is this thing? A Zoom PodTrack P8. So let's get into this here. Honestly, there was not a ton of movement. I'm going to take off. If you're watching this, it's a weird thing that I have, but I'm going to take that off. There wasn't a whole lot of movement this week, and it just because there wasn't a lot of teams making, there wasn't a ton of just massive upsets. There were a few, but there weren't a ton of massive upsets. There were some weird things going on, but by and large, everything stayed pretty much the same. And I'll talk through some of the changes. So let's go first here. There were no changes in the top 10. So I know Layton Christian Academy went out and played in the Classic at Damien and played just a brutal schedule. I think a couple of games. They're going to be out at Hoop Hall West, the Nike Tournament of Champions in Phoenix this week. So again, just continuing to play a big time national schedule. Timpview, I don't believe played. Orem went out to Tennessee and played, and again, played a bunch of nationally ranked teams. And so those guys all sort of stayed the same in the top 5. There were also no changes here in, wait a sec. Yeah, 6 through 10. So I still got Harriman, Anthem Prep, who I haven't seen much from. I think they're getting ready to go play in Iowa, maybe in the EIBC, Bingham Alta, and then Green Canyon. I got the most pushback on Green Canyon for having them in my top 10 overall. But here's the deal. All right. I think I said the same thing last week. They are 12-0. And you go, well, who have they played? They've played some teams. They've played up. They're a 4A school. They've played up above where they're at. They have one of the best scorers in the state, and they haven't lost. And so that means a lot to me, right? Like, I think it's important for you to go out and beat the teams that you have scheduled. If you schedule up and you schedule really hard, I think that makes you better prepared for the tournament. If you just schedule a bunch of, soft games or whatever it is, and you just win a bunch, that's your prerogative, right? I will still probably put you on the power rankings, but these don't matter. That's why they're called that nobody asked for it. These don't really matter. The end of the season is what matters. You need to go out and compete to win a state championship. I think Green Canyon is going to be able to do both, to be totally candid. But when we get into 4A, we'll talk a little bit about Payson and even a team that's not in my top 5, but I think certainly could be in Cottonwood. Okay, so let's get into 6A. The only change that I made here in 6A was I flipped Davis and Layton. So Layton went out. They played Olympus. I haven't been able to go to many of these games, so I'm just looking at box scores and just texting with people. So if you're like, you don't know how that game went, I do not know how that game went. You are free to tell me how the game went if you'd like to, but I don't know because I can't. I don't have time to sit around and watch everything. But I flipped them, put Davis up at number 3 and Layton at 5, and it feels like the Harriman, Bingham, Davis at this current moment is the right top 3 based on the records and kind of where everyone's at right now. Layton lost to Olympus, and then they went to overtime against Cottonwood, who is a team that can come out and get you, right? But it's a 4A school. Granted, it's over the holiday breaks, weird things happen. We'll talk about that in a little bit when I get to 3A, right? Like crazy things happen in basketball. So I don't know. I wasn't at the game, but I felt like Layton is still clearly a top 5 team in 6A. There's going to be movement when we get into region play, but that's my top 5 there in 6A. Going to 5A, nothing changed. Of course, as I'm recording this, I think Highland is playing Hillcrest. So, maybe you're like, well, Hillcrest just beat Highland. I don't know what the score is. And by the way, Deseret News hasn't updated scores from the 30th yet either. So I'm trying to figure. The weirdest team, though, to me in 5A continues to be Springville. I don't understand, y'all, like Red Devils, what's going on? Because I feel like I went to bat for y'all early on, and there's just something isn't clicking. Now you still have time to come together and click as a team, but on paper, y'all should be in this top 5. I'm just going to say it. Y'all should be a top 5 team in 5A. Y'all should be competing in 5A. And I don't know what's going on. So you guys still have time. Like I said, there's still plenty of time to figure it out. It doesn't matter how you're playing now. It matters how you're playing at the end of the year. But it's a weird one to me. Let's keep going here to 4A because I did have a little bit of change here. I bumped Ridgeline up to 4 and moved Hillcrest down to 5. Hillcrest played Mountain View, I think, in the Olympus Autism Tournament. Lost that game. They're a hard team to figure out. I know they played Olympus tough. It sounded like they had that game. They had some free throw issues. So again, it's like you play Olympus tough at Olympus and then come out and lose to Mountain View. And Coach Connor's doing a tremendous job there in his first year. I'm not saying there's any shade on that. It's just it was a tough weekend. So moved them down to 5, still kept them in the top 5. Ridgeline has still only lost 1 game. But I did get to watch a little bit of Payson play just over Baller TV when they were out at the Tarkanian Classic. And it seems to me, now I don't know the teams that Payson was playing at all. They were a bunch of random teams from other states. But it seems to me like Payson is a team that knows who they are. They know their identity. My guess is they've all played together a decent amount. And they seem like them and Timpanogos seem like the 2 teams most primed to give Green Canyon a run in 4A. Those would be my 2 kind of sleeper teams. They're not really sleepers. They're ranked 2nd and 3rd. But a team that is not on this list, though, that I talked about with Layton is Cottonwood. And Cottonwood has the ability, I think, to not only get in the top 5, I certainly expect them to be in the top 5, but to be a team that, let's say they're I don't know, an 8 seed in the 4A tournament because of how the RPIs work, and they get Green Canyon early in the tournament, or maybe they come up to a 4 seed and they get them in the semifinal, whatever it is. That's a team that can also come in and beat Green Canyon. So, not only Payson, Timpanogos, Ridgeline, Hillcrest, but I think also Cottonwood. And I don't know if Isaiah Bay is yet back at Murray, but if he gets back and is fully healthy, that's another team that you should look out for. So I think 4A is going to be an interesting division to keep an eye on. Similarly, though, I think 3A is. So in 3A, South Summit, who has Logan Wolstenholme, who is, I think he's leading the state in scoring, and he's like 2nd in rebounds, which is crazy to me. So South Summit, it's not crazy like I can't believe he's doing it. It's crazy because it's impressive. So South Summit moved in at number 4. I moved Judge Memorial up, and it's weird to say I moved him up to 3 when they're sitting at 7 and 7. And they lost a tough game to West. I go to all the Judge games because my son plays there. And the West game was a different game. So West has a player, I think his name is Matthew Fox, I want to say is his name, who had, he had hit, I think he had 8 threes and scored 28 points this whole season, and went out and just was on an absolute heater, hit 9 threes, had 29 points. So hit more threes than he had all season, scored more points. Shout out to him for playing an exceptional game. And sometimes these things happen in basketball, right? Sometimes I know this because I was that player when I was in high school. I was the sort of the kid who could get high. I scored like 6 or 7 points a game, but if I hit 20 or if I got over 15, we were probably going to win those games. There's always these players who can get hot, and you're kind of not counting on it to happen. If everyone else plays average, you're going to sneak up and surprise some teams, which is why I always say that in high school basketball with a single elimination tournament, nothing is for certain. 0. Nothing is for certain in high school basketball. So while teams are at number 1 or at number 2, they could get beat by the 7 seed, the 8 seed, the 16 seed. It happens in the NCAA with a bunch of professional, probably a Freudian slip there. It is basically professional basketball now at the Division I level, but you have Division I basketball players who are NBA level players, losing to the 16 seed in the tournament. So don't be surprised if things like that happen here. I think that if somebody said like who's going to win, West or Judge, and you looked at their records, you say Judge probably is. Well, they didn't count on the kid Fox. So, but I moved Judge up because I think that they're playing really well. They're a team that they're the defending champions. That yes, their record is at 500. Yes, I am for sure 100% biased. I totally admit that. But is it a stretch to say that the defending state champions are going to come back? This team was 5-12 at this point last year. They're 7-7 this year, and they haven't backed away from scheduling difficulty either. So South Summit moves in, Judge moves up to 3, so Morgan at 1, and Jew Abbott 2, who I don't even know if I'm saying their high school's name correctly, so I apologize, but I have them at 2 just based on the record, and then Richfield at 5. Although I will say Grantsville came at Judge, played them extremely difficult, and American Heritage are two other teams in 3A that I expect to be there at the end. 2A, by the way, if you want to know all about 2A sports, specifically 2A basketball, go check out Fourth Row Media. They cover this so much better than I do, so much better than I do. So I just go through and look at things. 1 through 4, I felt pretty comfortable with, and number 5, I have no idea. I legitimately have no idea. I kept Draper APA there because they were there last week and they didn't do anything to lose it. ALA is playing some difficult games. They played Cottonwood. I heard that was a good, hard game. They will play Draper APA. I forget who else they played and they lost to, but they're up here at the Olympus tournament, and they're not getting blown out. You know, they're competitive. So I think they kept that their number 1 seed. Kanab at number 2. North Summit entered the chat at number 3. Their record looks really solid. South Sevier at 4, and then Draper APA at 5. And then in 1A, we've got just a little bit of a change here. Tintic dropped to 3, and Milford went up to number 2. Panguitch played a couple of 4A schools, played them tough. They lost those games, but they still played them very, very hard. So Panguitch stays at 1, Milford 2, Tintic 3. Rich at number 4, who I picked to play Panguitch in the state championship game. So let's go, Rebels. Pick it up. And then Tabiona at 5. All right. So that's my quick run through the power rankings. Like I said, not a ton to talk about there. I hope everybody stays safe, has a wonderful holiday, set goals, bring people in to hold you accountable to those goals, and just continue to, number 1, get better. Number 2, have fun. Just enjoy your teammates, enjoy the time, enjoy the bus rides, enjoy the crappy food, like enjoy all of it, because you'll be sitting here at 44 years old in in a basement having a podcast where you're talking about high school basketball before too long. So enjoy this time, have fun. Everybody go subscribe over at utahbasketball.net. I've been picking up quite a few subscribers and it's been great. So everybody go do that. I'll put that back up here. There it is, utahbasketball.net down at the bottom of the screen. And I will holler at y'all in 2025. Should we play what was this? Play this out? Thank you, everybody.